It's really hard to imagine a dessert more decadent than 6 layers of chocolate cake and salted caramel covered with gorgeous swirls of chocolate frosting. All the elements are surprisingly uncomplicated and can be made in stages, and actually they taste better made a day or two in advance. Start with 1½ cups of Dutch processed cocoa. And it's good to put all of these ingredients right in a sieve. It's 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And we're just sifting this right into our mixing bowl. Now this is getting a little full, so I will start to sift. You can see that dark cocoa mixing with the flour. Here's the last cup of flour. And we also need 3 cups of granulated sugar. And this can be sifted also right in these other ingredients. Just go a little at a time. It smells so good. That cocoa powder is so rich. And I put in 1 cup of sugar. Now we need 2 more. And a few more dry ingredients, like 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, and make sure your baking powder is fresh, and 1½ teaspoons of salt. So I think I have everything. Now, this is an unusual cake because you don't cream the butter and the sugar and add the eggs to that. You start with the sifted dry ingredients. Add 1½ cups of warm water, 4 whole eggs, 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of safflower oil, and 1½ cups of buttermilk. Buttermilk makes such a moist, delicious cake. Oh, and don't forget 2 teaspoons of best vanilla extract. And this is enough for 3 9-inch by 2-inch layer cakes. The pans have been buttered with softened butter, then lined in the bottom with a piece of parchment. Buttered again, both sides and bottom, and then dusted heavily with more of that Dutch processed cocoa. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So that's 1 cake. Second cake. And don't waste any of this good batter. It's so pretty. So there we have it. Now bake these cakes in a 350-degree oven until the cakes are set and a toothpick inserted in the center of each comes out clean. That'll take just about 35 minutes. So now we're making the caramel filling. As you can see, the cakes have come out of the oven. They're glistening chocolate brown. To make the caramel, 1/4 cup of water, 1/4 cup of light corn syrup, and 4 whole cups of sugar. I have it on high flame, so I swirl and I tilt. And for any crystals that might be forming around the top of the mixture, use a soft brush and just run a little bit of excess water around to prevent crystals from forming. Another way to prevent crystals is to cover this and let the steam rise and fall back down the sides of the pan. This is going to take about 14 minutes. So you can see that all the sugar has dissolved. It's darkening in color. Turn off your heat, very important, before you pour in the heavy cream. And you'll see it'll bubble. Stir with the spoon. And be careful, you don't want this to boil over. And cook until it reaches the soft ball, 238 degrees. When it's 238, remove your thermometer. Pour this into a bowl to cool. Now immediately stir in 1 teaspoon of salt. This will have to cool, and that's going to take around 15 minutes. So now I'm making the filling, which is this lovely salty caramel filling, incorporating 1 cup of butter cut into small pieces. And then this will cool further, and we'll make the chocolate frosting. And now for the frosting, 2 sticks unsalted butter, 1/2 cup of confectioner's sugar, a pinch of salt, And while that's creaming, dissolve 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. This is the Dutch process. In 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of warm water. So you're using cocoa as well as 1 pound of semi-sweet chocolate melted and cooled. Add the chocolate and then add your cocoa. I'll mix it one last time with the scraper and then let the icing sit for about 30 minutes. So now we have 2 cakes which are slightly topped, the dome's taken off, and split in half. For those of you who are novices, to split a cake, it might be a little intimidating. So you can measure and you can mark your half of a layer with toothpicks around the perimeter. So this cake is approximately 1.5 inches, so 3/4 of an inch you can just mark around, and then you can cut with your knife on the top of the toothpicks. That way it'll give you a pretty even layer. So we're going to put approximately 3/4 of a cup of this rich, thick caramel right on top of our layers. And spread it all over the layer. So now get your next layer back on. More caramel. You get the idea. So this is what the cake looks like, all layered. Now, this is the serving pedestal. And to keep that clean, I like to insert my little pieces of parchment or wax paper right around the cake like this. Now, the pedestal's protected, and I am ready to swirl on my chocolate buttercream. This is such a thick and beautiful buttercream. And using an offset spatula, draw some of that frosting down the sides. You want it to go all the way down to the bottom of the supporting cardboard. So if your cake is a little uneven, now's the time with this beautiful frosting to sort of level it off. And now for the crowning glory, this beautiful flaky sea salt. Now pull out your little pieces of parchment. The mess is primarily on the paper, and the cake can be chilled, or if you can't wait, you can serve it right now. Chocolate and caramel, a match made in heaven.